So mass incarceration has garnered the attention of almost everyone in this room, and rightfully so. Mass supervision, on the other hand, has long been overlooked and understudied. In fact, it's an under-the-radar linchpin of criminal justice reform, and yet the status quo in many places has really cut against this potential.
A lot of times we hear, probation, that's a good thing. It's an alternative to incarceration. We're not locking people up. But what I have seen through my research and through the research of others is that probation can be just as, and sometimes more difficult than prison. When we look at probation conditions, so the things that individuals must do to successfully complete their probation, that can range from, in some states, up to 25, 30 conditions. We're saying that if individuals do not meet these conditions, that they can be violated and ultimately revoked to prison or jail.
3/4 of those under supervision were convicted of a nonviolent crime. And when it comes to probationers, more than 4 in 10 were convicted of a misdemeanor. Racial differences that are well known in incarceration are also reproduced when it comes to community supervision, with black adults 3.5 times as likely as whites to be under supervision. And where you live matters. Due in large part to policy and practice differences, there are huge variations from states to states when it comes to community supervision.
Now, I come from a community where I've seen a lot of individuals choose 1 year in jail versus 5 years probation. From our perspective of individuals directly impacted, how do we reduce the footprint of probation and parole? How do we actually, if probation is the sentence, let probation be the sentence, and if there's a violation of rules that is based on quality of life, allow the community services to address those issues if it's substance abuse, mental health, not making appointments.
One of the jurisdictions that I work with, they made $1.7 million just on supervision fees. So that's not the other fees, that's just the $60 a month that they made one county. And they depend on it. It funds 2/3 of their budget, so it funds probation officers. And so probation officers know that if they don't make this, that they're going to potentially have to face cuts.
We've turned probation into what we would like to call a stage of opportunity in the system and a stage of growth. We've evolved from a compliance-based, the more supervision, the better, the sort of one-size-fits-all approach to probation to a research-informed, one-size-fits-one, and community-focused process in probation.
One of the things we have to make sure of is that as we're changing those policies locally, that people with direct experience are sitting at the table and having a voice in those decisions and how it's played out. And especially paying attention to certain communities that have been marginalized and over-policed, of how that new policy is going to play out in those communities is going to be very important as well.